Everyone, and welcome to our meeting for this evening. This is the 40th meeting of the 144th Council of the Corporation of the City of St. Thomas. And to start, are there any declarations of interest from any of the members? Seeing none, we'll move on to minutes.
I have a motion that the minutes of the meeting held on November the 12th, 2024 be confirmed.
Peters.
Moved by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your Worship, I understand we have no deputations. However, we do have a presentation this evening and you are making the presentation.
I'm going to attempt to. We have recognition, folks, from the MyFM Awards and in our community, and the City of St. Thomas, particularly our Parks Department at Pinafore Park, has been recognized this year for Pinafore Park Playground, the most voted best favorite playground in our community. So I thought that we would hand over this recognition to Mr. Bray on behalf of his staff. So Jeff, if I can get you to come forward. This is not the first time. We have each year won something on the awards, and I think this is a second time for our parks. So it's a great award this year. It's in the shape of an album.
And you and I are old enough.
We're old enough to know what an album is.
Yes.
Right? Why won't this fit in my CD player? No. So thank you, Jeff. Please pass on our congratulations from council to your staff.
I will. It's all
Thank
theirs.
you.
Thank you.
And maybe next year a pony.
Or a cassette.
Yeah. Madam Clerk, next item.
Council will now resolve itself into committee of the whole to deal with following business. First item is strategic direction and development. First item is under that committee is the Dalewood Water Reclamation Facility. I have a motion that report ID 4124 relating to the Dalewood Water Reclamation Facility be received for information, and further the council approve an application for approval to expropriate the land set out as parcel B in the report and with the legal description noted in the report, and further the staff be authorized to execute the application for approval to expropriate land and the notice of application for approval to expropriate and to serve and publish the notice. And further, the staff be authorized to provide any information as may be required to the Chief Inquiry Officer and/or the Ontario Land Tribunal should a hearing of necessity be held. And further, the council as the approving authority approve the expropriation of lands provided there is no hearing of necessity requested. And further, that where approval to expropriate is given, staff be authorized to register a plan of expropriation and execute and serve any notices as required. And further, that where approval to expropriate is given, council authorize the introduction of a necessary bylaw to give effect to these recommendations. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Councillor Herbert, then Councillor Wookey.
Thank you, Worship. So when I read this through here, and I'm willing to be corrected if I'm wrong, but we have to expropriate because you haven't signed a deal yet with the people? With the owners? Is that what we have to do?
In simple terms, Jim, that's where we're at. The site has been selected now through the Minister of the Environment, and it being the appropriate site for the reclamation of water facility. And so now the next step is to carry on with negotiations through this method. Go ahead.
Just to follow up. So what's the time frame for that? If you started it today, how long would it take to us to acquire the land through appropriation?
I'm going to refer to Mr. Lawrence on it. I believe right now the process can start where we can move forward while we continue the expropriation negotiation process.
That's exactly correct. The intent is to stay with friendly processes, but this is a step that all organizations take. So the MTO is doing the same thing right now through St. Thomas. Hydro One's doing the same thing for their line. And so it's just a method to make sure that within about 6 months' time, that there is a final conclusion and a handover property.
Councillor Wookie?
Thanks, Your Worship. I just want to stress to members of the public, this is certainly, we don't start with expropriation. Like, that's not how this works with, when I read this, I understand that we must do this in conjunction with negotiations. So just if members of the public think that we're playing strong arm, we're not. This is a part of a negotiation process, but we made commitments to get this thing done at a certain time, and we have an obligation to keep moving on it. So thank you.
Mr. Lawrence, if you could stay just for a second in case I don't cover this properly, but we've spent a great deal of the last 6 months on conversations about this, maybe even almost a year, with our neighboring community of Central Elgin, with the landowners, with a number of ways of assessing, can we take this land to the right facility? And in every case, we've had public meetings. In every case, we've had discussions, and many of them. And I know I've been shoulder to shoulder with you in a number of them. So this isn't taken lightly, but when you get to a community improvement place where we're trying to build a new water reclamation facility for those at home, a wastewater facility, and there's only a certain number of places they can go to in our watershed for us to move forward. And as you know, with the growth of the city of St. Thomas, both industrial and housing wise, we have to move forward. This won't happen overnight, and we have to move forward in order to be able to not get into the place where we wouldn't be able to grow housing. And that's truly where we're at. Mr. Lawrence, on what I've just said, hitting it most of the points?
It's very accurate. It's actually been a 2-year process, and we had 2 steps. The first one shortlisted 8 locations and through a number of different public meetings, engagements. And then the second process got it down to these 3 that are shown in this report. And actually, all the way back in the spring of 2024, we chose site number 3 collectively for this regional plan. So the site has been selected for some time, and this is just kind of the process catching up with us.
Great. Further questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
Next, we move into new business, and the next item is the St. Thomas Elgin operating budget. I have a motion that report SCSS 1424 relating to the St. Thomas Elgin operating budget be received for information. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments?
Peters.
Thank you. I'll go to you first, Stephen, and then I'll go to Councillor Baldwin Sands and Councillor Herbert. Go ahead.
Thanks very much, Your Worship, and I recognize that this will be part of the operating budget discussion. But I'm just hoping that Danielle can clarify for me, in our role as the delivery of the social service provider and the housing provider on behalf of the county of Elgin, if at budget time we approve this, I take it that there'll be a share of those costs provided by the county in the approval, in the event that we approve this? Thank you.
Ms. Nielsen, good to have you back at our podium, and please help us with this question.
Thank you, Your Worship, and good evening, Council. Thank you, Councillor Peters, for the question. I am happy to confirm that there will be cost sharing between St. Thomas and the county, subject to the budget being approved.
Councillor Baldwin Sands?
Thank you. I would like to again thank you for this report. It shows again how the City of St. Thomas and the County of Elgin as a service provider for social services, this puts people first. And I have always appreciated that, and also have appreciated how we collectively as a council have embraced listening to the professionals when it comes to how we set this up and moving forward, the timelines that have been created, et cetera. So the housing for everyone in our strategic plan, we have been focusing on that and charging forward together collectively as a council. I also want to bring out that this has also been a beacon of light for other communities. They are looking to us for examples. When we, in August, were at AMO, many times people came up to us at AMO and said, just in the informal sessions, and said, what a great job that we are doing. So please again, extend my thanks to all of the staff who have provided that. In the report, however, you talk about sustainability and more specifically about moving forward with grants and fundraising and opportunities that are available there. I was hoping, I note that you have brought someone with you. I was hoping that he could come to the podium and talk about some of the grants and the fundraising and revenue that they can look at coming forward.
Yep.
You
I'm very-
first, Ms. Nielsen, then we'll ask your guests to come up with you, so.
Sure.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Your Worship. And thank you for the positive feedback and for the inquiry. I just wanted to concur with you that we're being seen at a provincial and a national level as a leading community in our response to homelessness, and for very good reason. So thank you for your comments, and I'm quite happy to invite Mr. Elliott up to the podium to answer your questions around sustainability.
Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity. Great question. So 2 weeks ago in Ottawa, the Canadian Alliance to End Homelessness Conference, they've shared that there is a funding opportunity that will be coming down early next year that will help aim towards more sustainability for shelters across Canada. Also, Ministry of Housing also announced that more money would be going into the Reaching Home budget. So we are currently in the midst of doing up our request for funding from them. We're not sure what the amount of money is. We won't know that until April of next year, but there does seem to be a bit more urgency from other areas around making sure that shelters are supported correctly so that we can move to that next stage of getting people housed.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. You kind of talked around what I was going to ask, but I will ask, when you talk about what is your gut feeling of getting X number of dollars to help with the $400,000 deficit, do you really think that's going to make a big impact on you?
It does, and thank you for that question. We work really tirelessly internally on fundraising, development, gift in kind, things of that nature. When we spend our money, we are a fairly lean shelter operation in terms of how we do things, what we do. We're very transparent with our funders around our operations. So any excess that we are able to fund would go towards continued supports. There's no shortage of needs that we could add more housing-focused case managers, prescription supports, transportation to medical and mental health appointments, things of that nature. Hopefully that answered the question.
I have a second question. I'm just wondering, is there such a thing as an expansion at the end? Like, would you need more money? We gave you X number of dollars through the year. I'm assuming that's in the $400,000, but that's all for operating. Is there such a thing as an expansion to help with
Yeah, that one's going to go back to Ms. Nielsen, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your question. In terms of expansion, I think it's important to emphasize and to continue to have the conversation about the fact that emergency shelter is not the solution to homelessness. Right. The solution to homelessness is housing, affordable housing, and housing with supports as needed. I'm very happy to share with you that we have plans underway in our community for increasing supportive and affordable housing to a number of units that actually exceeds the number of people currently experiencing homelessness right now in our community. Those units come online throughout 2025 and 2026, which gives us the opportunity to reimagine how the inn supports our community. They're learning a ton about being available and effectively supporting a very complex population. But the future is more like emergency housing or more supportive housing. It's not emergency shelter.
Councillor McCauley.
Danielle has actually answered more, I just wanted to make a statement that this is an interim solution with the goal of priority number 5 in our strategic plan of housing for everyone. So it is a short-term plan with the goal to have everyone housed by 2026, correct?
Yes,
Thank you.
correct.
Great.
Thank you, Councillor McCauley.
Councillor Baldwin Sands, you're back up.
Thank you. And thank you again. I would like, one of the things in the report that you really drew out was the ability that the inn has of bringing in volunteers into the shelter itself, plus many outside groups that are supporting the inn in that way. Could you talk a little bit about that, please?
Sure, yeah, I'm happy to. And thank you for pointing that out in the report. I thought of you when I was writing that report and our volunteers because there's so many who do so much in our community. That's one of the ways that Brian has been able to lead his shelter and their team to really be lean on their operating expenses. I noted in the report that comparably to neighboring municipalities of shelters of similar size and scale that were lean, on par and lean. In comparison, what I can share with you is that other shelters are operating closer to a $2 million cost, with anywhere from 60 to 100% of that cost being funded by the municipality. And so the volunteers that dedicate their time to be a part of the work that's happening at the end really does impact that operating budget and creates opportunity for people.
Super. Councillor Peters, I see your hand. Well, it's not your hand, but it's a very good representation of a hand.
Okay, I'll put my hand up too. Thanks, Your Worship. Danielle, the province stepped to the table on the capital cost. We now are responsible for helping to support the inn and augment their fundraising efforts. Is there a way that we can recover some money out of the province? I think, as an example, if I'm a user of the inn and I'm on ODSP, I receive a housing allowance. Can we have that housing allowance directed to the inn to help offset putting a roof over someone's head?
Thank you for your question, Councillor Peters. And that is something that has been explored. We have not landed on a way to be able to do that so far. Part of the challenge is that those shelter costs are intended to be for permanent housing solutions. In addition, if we were to free that up to the inn, for example, and then that person found housing halfway through the month or for other reasons needed to exit out of the shelter, it would complicate the ability to be able to return those funds. But they are conversations that have and can continue to be explored to find solutions. I can also share with you that we advocate regularly to the province for an increase in our housing program funding, our HPP funding. And if that were to increase, it may present an opportunity to move more of that towards the shelter and reduce the impact on the tax levy.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Worship. First of all, just a comment, I'd like to thank Brian and his staff for your leadership. There seems to be a real difference that's been noticed by a number of the merchants downtown, and I know a large part of that is your leadership. My question just had to do with one of the lines on security. It's 380,000, and I was just wondering what that looks like on a daily basis. How are they deployed and what do they do?
Thank you for the question. May I defer to Mr. Elliott?
Of course you may.
Wonderful.
Hi, thank you, and great question. So our security works 24/7 at our facility. They are extremely well trained in de-escalation, trauma response, things of that nature. If you notice from the previous year, we went from 2 full-time security down to 1 full-time security guard. So they are active in screening when any of our clients come through, so that any items on them that are not supposed to be in shelter can either go in their amnesty bin or are turned away. They help in de-escalation should there be any items happening with guests or through staff. Their role is really critical in keeping everything stable within the operation.
Brian, can I ask the relationship between your security folks and our special constables?
Absolutely. Thank you. That was one of the reasons we moved from 2 security guards to 1 security guard. With the advent of the special constables, we see them daily. There's communication between security and special constables, more in a positive nature. A fair amount of the clientele that deal with us previously would have viewed kind of the enforcement area differently, and through the use of the constables, now they're able to ask questions, more avocation as it relates to, kind of that social justice area. And it does help in the de-escalation as well as more positive interactions throughout between both us, special constables, and assisting our clients in navigating some of that system.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands, did you have one more?
Just if I could, it's a comment. Recently, when it was starting to get cold, a young man who was a former neighbor came up to me on Talbot Street and said, "Thank you for the inn, because without it, I would be out in the cold." So that is my constant reminder that the inn, it services our community members who are our neighbors, our sons, our daughters, and they're part of families. So I want to thank you for all you do.
Thank you very much, and I will certainly take it back. I have the privilege of working with a great team at the inn and individuals that are passionate about making a difference for these individuals and our community.
Great. I don't think I could have said it better than the two of you just did. Brian, I know that we're looking at continuous reduction of homelessness in our community. Ms. Nielsen shared that with us, and this council has a very good plan moving forward to eliminate homelessness, if we can dare say that word, in 25 or 26 and get there. So the budget you have looking at next year, should we surprise you and get quite a bit ahead, your budget would, of course, be adjusted to match what your demand is at that time?
We've always kept our budget as nimble as we can for the exact same reasons, right? As flow decreases, number of meals decrease or things of that nature, then obviously there would be other budget considerations that would go in, and certainly through conversations with social services and that on what's next for the inn. And as our board starts to look towards strategic priorities over the next 3 years, we do envision the look and feel of the inn to be different than just an emergency shelter and becoming more in line with supportive housing and redirection.
Great. So adding to community supports. Brian, it's exactly what this council's wanting to hear. We're doing our best to move forward, and you're doing your best to help us get there from an emergency point of view. So thank you for the work you do.
Thank you, and thank you around the table for all the support.
Thanks. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No further items for this committee unless there are items from the members. Seeing none, your worship, we'll now move into community engagement and services. Nothing on the agenda at this time unless there are any items from the members.
Seeing none?
We'll now move into infrastructure and civic operations. First item relates to the New Year's Eve free transit service. I have a motion that report ES 4924 relating to the New Year's Eve free transit service be received, and further, the council approve free transit service on New Year's Eve from 5:45 p.m. on Tuesday, December the 31st to 2:45 a.m. on Wednesday, January the 1st. That's 2025. Moved by Councillor Clark, second by Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Questions or comments on the transit service? Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, Worship. Is 2:45 long enough? Like, I know lots of people party to 1 or 2.
I'll answer your question this way,
Yes.
Councillor Herbert. Will you still be up at 2:45? Nor will I. So I'm not sure we can verify that time. But we'll ask those that are, and in a conversation today with Mr. Dilibeck on the transit system, I said, this is a great cause and a reason to do it. Certainly, if we can prevent one drunk driving incident by having free transit, we win. But how do we know this is helping? And the numbers. And so we're looking at this year, kind of looking at what type of service does it offer. Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the Woodworth Avenue Pumping Station Design Consultant Award. I have a motion that report ID 4224 relating to the consultant award be received for information, and further that the proposal submitted by JL Richards and Associates Limited in the amount of $625,271 excluding HST be accepted. Moved by Counselor Wookey, seconded by Counselor Gibson.
Questions or comments on the sexiness of a pumping station? Counselor Herbert, then Counselor Clark.
Thank you, Worship. Well, I'm easily confused, but I was confused here. Usually when we have somebody building something, we get all the different people apply, all the different construction companies. They give a dollar figure. If they meet a certain criteria, that's who we take the lowest bid. But I noticed this time, there's no dollar figures, and it was based on a point system. So, and then that's all they got chosen. So is this something different, or is it an exception to the rule, or I'm happy for it. No debate there, but just curious how it was working.
Mr. Lawrence?
Thanks. Yeah. So in this case, it's the engineering assignment. So when we hire an engineering assignment, typically we do a request for proposals that's based on a series of factors. So the experience of the team, the experience with similar projects, the people that they're going to put on the team, their understanding of the concept, and then price makes up a small component of it. So it's in this case for engineering, it's always or it's often done by the request for proposal process, not the request for tender process. So when we build this station eventually, we'll do a request for tender and we'll get a price to build it, and we'll go with the low qualified bid at that point.
Okay. Counselor Clark?
Thanks. Will this site be able to take expansion, or would there ever be a need for expansion based on the fact that it's got the flow coming from our new industrial sites, and if that was to grow, or is it, one size and you'd have to build a separate pumping station at another time?
Mr. Lawrence?
We're early in the design process, so we put some preliminary thoughts into it, and we think that we'll be building just north of the existing building. So picture something the same size as the existing building, but just north of it. And that will be a whole new pump station with new pumps. In the future, if you wanted to make that even bigger, you'd put bigger pumps in that pump station. But in general, it's sized to take all the growth that we have planned to drain towards it. So everything in Yarmouth Yards is accommodated with this design.
Further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Your Worship, unless there are any further items from the members, we'll now move into corporate governance and administration. The first item relates to the 2025 employee group benefits renewal. I have a motion that report HR 0724 relating to the 2025 employee group benefits renewal be received for information, and further the council approve the renewal for the group benefit program with Manulife Financial for extended health care, dental, short-term disability, life insurance, and long-term disability benefits effective January the 1st, 2025 for a period of 1 year. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Kohler.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to audit services. I have a motion that report TR 1724 relating to audit services be received for information, and further the council authorize the extension of the current audit services agreement with the firm of Scrimgeour and Company for an additional 2 years. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Macaulay.
Questions or comments on the audit services? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the 2023 council remuneration. I have a motion that report TR 1824 relating to 2023 council remuneration be received for information. Moved by Councillor Gibson. Seconded by Councillor Clark.
Questions or comments, please? Councillor Baldwin-Sands?
Thank you. Is there going to be a chance, or can we find out from Ms. Schultz, if this is going to be under evaluation in the near future, or?
I think I can speak, but certainly, Sandra, if you want, you can come up. We, during each term of council must look at the next term of council as to if there will be any changes. So I think that's in our plan within the next 2 years before we go back to the people and bring in another group of council. Would that be?
Good evening, Your Worship. Yeah, that's correct. I think, have spoken about this within the last year, that the year in which there's an election in January of that year, we will undertake a full review of council remuneration and bring a report back for this council to look at, and those changes would be effective the following council.
Thank you.
Great. Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Your Worship. I just noticed that my remuneration is about $400 more than the rest.
Substantially higher than everyone else.
And I can understand that, and I'm sure the members thought it should be higher, but I was just wondering if at some point we could get an update as to why that little discrepancy. I'm sure somebody's going to ask.
Our treasurer is going to come up and help you with that. I know that's Mr. Treasurer?
In preparation of this report, we did find that there was an error and it'll be corrected in the future.
Oh, so
I'm getting less.
You would like the accumulated interest on that great amount before they rip it away from you? That's. Thank you, Councillor Clark. I thought I noticed that too and wondered myself how I know you're special, but I didn't know you were more special than anyone else. Thank you. Further questions and comments on the council of remuneration? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Next item relates to the 2023 building permit fees report. I have a motion that report TR 1924 relating to the 2023 building fees report be received for information. Moved by Councillor Gibson, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments on the building fees report? Seeing none, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? Carried.
Your Worship, unless there are any further items from the members for this committee, Council will now reconvene into regular session. I have a motion that the recommendations, directions, and actions of Council and Committee of the Whole, as recorded in the minutes of this date, be confirmed, ratified, and adopted. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor Macaulay.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No reports of committees this evening. Next order of business are petitions and communications. The first one is a request that the Jumbo Monument be lit in Periwinkle for Stomach Cancer Awareness Month. I have a motion that the Jumbo Monument be lit in Periwinkle on November 30th, 2024 in recognition of Stomach Cancer Awareness Month. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Gibson.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We have an additional item on this under petitions and communication. I'm going to hand it over to Councillor Peters, if you wouldn't mind.
Thanks very much, Your Worship. I appreciate the back and forth this weekend. On November 23rd, the San Jose Sharks will be retiring Joe Thornton's number 19. There's a number of events that are taking place in San Jose this week, a special event, I believe on Wednesday with the mayor. On November 23rd, there's at the hockey game, there's an event and a ceremony that's going to recognize Jumbo Joe. And on that day, the city of San Jose, November 23rd, is proclaiming Joe Thornton Day in the city of San Jose. And I'd like to move a motion this evening that the city of St. Thomas proclaim November 23rd as Joe Thornton Day in the city of St. Thomas, and that the Jumbo Monument, if the color exists, that the Jumbo Monument be lit in teal, which is the color of the San Jose Sharks, that the Jumbo Monument be lit in teal on the evening of November the 23rd. So I trust the clerk can perhaps cobble together that motion, but I'd like to make that motion.
Thank you. I need a mover and seconder for that.
Second?
Okay, got it?
Your worship, I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Kohler, that council declare November 23rd, 2024 as Joe Thornton Day in the city of St. Thomas, and further that the Jumbo Monument be lit in teal, and yes, we do have that color, on November 23rd, 2024, in recognition of Joe Thornton's jersey number 19 being retired by the San Jose Sharks.
Questions or comments? We have prepared a proclamation in anticipation that council would agree. We will be taping that proclamation and also sending it off to our friends in San Jose so that they know that St. Thomas will also be doing the same thing and recognizing one of our favorite sons on the same day. Thank you, Councillor Peters, for the work you've done this last weekend in kind of getting this started, and we'll make sure that we recognize Joe Thornton in a very special way here in St. Thomas also. Councillor Baldwin-Sands.
Just as an afterthought, can we put the number 19 on Jumbo as well? Because it's done by
No. Now that you've mentioned it, somebody's going to be out there with a spray can. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I don't mean I don't mean that way. I just mean with the light that is on it. They can usually do some sort of cutout from the light.
Let's see. If it's possible,
If
we
it's
will.
possible, we will.
Right.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Or we'll quickly get a jersey big enough for Jumbo to wear. Further questions or comments on the recognition of Joe Thornton in our community this week and specifically on Saturday? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No further items under petitions and communications. We'll next move into unfinished business of council. Your worship, seeing no items, we'll now move into new business of council.
Councillor Herbert?
Thank you, worship. I'm sure you're going to mention it, but I want to make sure about lighting of the lights. The tree was fantastic, so I'll leave it to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Now that you've brought it up, absolutely. Light up Talbot, and the lighting of the Christmas tree in front of City Hall was an exceptional night last Friday, and maybe not perfect weather, but sure was perfect fun. Lots of music, lots of every councillor out there helping us serve hot chocolate and cookies and singing along to Christmas carols. And the largest crowd for a tree lighting I've ever seen, because it stretched all the way along Talbot. So thank you to all the Downtown Development Board merchants and the effort they put into 3 or 4 or 5 warming stations along Talbot Street that you could go visit and mingle, and the businesses that stayed open and did business all through the evening. So I wanted to thank you all. I know I got there for quite a bit of it, but when I left, Councillor Herbert was still spilling hot chocolate. So go ahead, Councillor Herbert, and then Councillor Baldwin.
Thank you. Just a comment. In the evening, I had a couple of ladies come up to me, didn't know them, and they said how great Talbot Street was looking. Great to see the crowds and everything, and keep up the good work. So I'm just passing that on to council now. So thank you.
Councillor Baldwin-Sands, you didn't spill near as much hot chocolate as Councillor Herbert did. So.
No, but I did have to supervise Rudolph when he was stirring the cookie batter because he did happen to get his hoof marks in a few of the cookies.
Yeah, a couple of hoof cookies doesn't hurt.
That being said, we also had another event at the Elgin County Railway Museum called the Tree Spectacular. I'm going to defer to Councillor Gibson to tell us a little bit more about what happened on the weekend and what is coming up next weekend.
And I thank all that participated in decorating the St. Thomas tree, but the event itself is incredible if you haven't been there yet. Councillor Gibson, share it with us.
Thank you, councillors. And your worship, thank you. I was there when you did the picture for at 2:00 there that day. I stepped away because it was his moment, not mine, and we were in the middle of decorating the tree. So myself, Councillor Baldwin-Sands and Councillor Tara McCauley, we put our heads together. We came up with a tree. The Christmas decorations have logos, St. Thomas logo, and our
Salzgitter.
Thank you, Salzgitter. I can never remember that, but I apologize. So Salzgitter logo on the bulbs as well. Some families traditionally in Germany will hang a pickle. And it's called a Christmas pickle. And if you were an adult and you found the pickle, the first one to find it, you would receive good health and wealth. If you were a child, you got a special prize. So our tree, if you find a pickle on our tree, there's a ballot to be filled out, and you have an opportunity to win gift card prizes, which will be drawn when the event is over.
If you have not been to the Railway Museum to see the trees it is, okay, I'll tell you, I was invited to come cut a ribbon and the mayor gets invited to a lot of those things, but I went there and it blew me away. 300 beautifully decorated trees lit up. It is gorgeous. To those at home and to anybody here that hasn't been yet, grab your spouse, grab your girlfriend, take them both if you want. Head on over to it is gorgeous. We'll be doing mayor's update from there tomorrow night. And so we're going to tell everybody, it is kind of an indoor fantasy of lights is the best way I can describe it. If you want to go see something spectacular in St. Thomas, go to the Railway Museum during open hours of tree visiting. It is incredible. Other new business. I have a couple. This Saturday night, what happens? Santa Claus comes to town, and the Optimist Santa Claus Parade, and am I right? The theme is a Christmas circus, all right? So I'll be clowning as I head down Talbot Street on Saturday night, but I know we'll all be out. It will be great to see the Optimist Parade, and I think maybe earlier than ever they stopped registration because they met their kind of maximum as to what floats they could have. So really worked out well. The other one piece of new business, sorry, Councillor Gibson, go ahead.
I just wanted to top on the Santa Claus Parade. When I was on Facebook, it looked like they are having 3 marching bands coming in. So that's very exciting for St. Thomas because usually we just only have the one.
Right. Well, we usually have music from a lot of other floats, but when you have real marching bands, it's a spectacular parade. Councillor Clark?
Also on Friday night is the fundraiser concert for the hospice.
Yes.
Out at the Masonic Temple, and I believe there's still a few tickets left.
Yes. And we continue to fundraise. And if you've seen the construction progress out at the hospice, it's incredible. It's really quite good. So we also had an event this week on Flora Street where the city kind of took possession of a 24-unit apartment building from Prespa Construction, who constructed it. We've, as a city and as a council, have agreed to lease the whole building and take it in as part of our housing supply, 24 one-bedroom apartments, seniors, affordable housing. And to visit with some of the seniors there that day, it was incredible. Somebody dragged me into her apartment to show me how great it was. And it's a spectacular place, and it's a great thing that we do to make this type of housing work. We have been growing as a community, and what we also need to continue to do as a community is grow our housing stock also. We let the builders build what they do. We let home builders build as they do. But when we can grab onto a project like this and take 24 more units into our housing stock at an affordable rate, city continues to grow with a big smile on its face and with the people in the city doing it. So, Councillor Peters, I saw your hand.
Thanks, Your Worship. I really commend the leadership of council and staff on this one. This is an excellent example of a public-private partnership that can work to help solve some of the housing needs. And, I hope that, that some of the other builders that are out there that are looking at either doing infill projects like this or larger projects, that they might consider the ability and the opportunity to partner with the city, because this is truly a win-win. And let's hope that others will look at what's happening on this one.
I agree with you, Councillor Peters. We're starting to see more public-private work together, like we saw with Tiny Hope. We've now seen with Prespa on this building. We've seen it with Eastwood and the group that's 85 units of housing that's happening with them that we're participating in. let's hope every builder in town finds a way to work with our community to help those that need affordable housing also, and we can continue to say yes as a council. Anything else under new business? Councillor Gibson?
I almost forgot my own event.
Okay.
This Sunday at
Yes.
the St. Thomas Senior Center, I'm having a sock hop with a twist. The twist is admission is new socks, a package of new socks. We have a live band and a DJ. We have about 45 prizes to win. And it's a free event for anyone who wants to come out, just a package of socks to help support the community. I gave out last year, excuse me, $11,000 in clothing, which included mitts, hats, scarves, and food. And I was able to spend, I think I received $475 for Smiles for Seniors. So I do a collection through this event, and then I put it out back into the community. Thank you.
Super one. Thank you for what you do. And we'll see everybody in the community out at the senior center this coming Sunday then.
Your worship.
Yes, Councillor Peter.
Yeah, I just wanted to give a shout out to another event that's taking place this week. A well-known coffee chain in its 7 locations in St. Thomas, Tim Hortons, is partnering this year with their Holiday Smile Cookie campaign. And the proceeds are split between supporting Tim Horton camps, and the recipient will be the St. Thomas Elgin Food Bank for the balance of the proceeds. So if you're out, pick up an extra cookie or a dozen cookies, because the proceeds are going to go to help support our community.
I'm sorry if anybody sees Stephanie. I just got permission to eat cookies this week because it's a fundraiser for our community. I think it's just great. Thank you, Councillor Peters, for giving me that permission. Any other new business? Seeing none, we're moving on.
Next order of business are bylaws. I have a motion that leave be granted to bring in the one bylaw moved by
Peters.
Councillor Baldwin, Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
I have a motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands, that the bylaws be now read a first time, referred to council and committee of the whole and read a second time.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
Our one bylaw, please.
First bylaw, first and only bylaw is a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on November the 18th, 2024.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Your worship, I rise to report the successful passing of one bylaw.
Please rest after that much. Yeah.
Motion by Councillor Peters, seconded by Councillor Baldwin Sands, that the report of council and committee of the whole on the one bylaw be received and adopted. The same be read a third time, engrossed, signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed and numbered.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried.
No public notices or notices of motion this evening. However, your worship, there is a need to move into closed session. I have a motion that this meeting be closed to deal with a personal matter about an identifiable individual. Moved by Councillor Baldwin Sands, seconded by Councillor McCauley.
Questions or comments? I will remind the folks at home that before I call for the vote, we'll be moving now into closed session. We'll only come out of closed session or rise from closed session in order to adjourn, go back to open session and adjourn our meeting for today. So for all of you at home watching, thank you very much. Please attend all of the great events that you've just heard about and help us be a better community. Questions or comments on the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We are now in closed session.
Your worship, having completed the items in closed session, I now have a motion by Councillor Herbert, seconded by Councillor Gibson, that council rise from closed session.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. We're now in open session.
I have a motion that council approve the roster of committee appointments as defined on November the 18th, 2024. Moved by Councillor Wookey, seconded by Councillor Herbert.
Questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
There are no further items, Your Worship, for open session. I have motion for adjournment by Councillor Clark, second by Councillor Baldwin Sands.
Questions or comments on adjournment? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Carried. Thank you.